Hello everyone. There was a day that changed everything. A quiet afternoon, a heartbeat louder than words, and a truth I could no longer keep hidden. I looked into CEO Toan's eyes and confessed my feelings, raw, trembling, real. But he said nothing. He turned away, lips sealed, heart unreadable. Was it the truth he couldn't say? Or a lie he told to protect me? I've asked myself that question over and over. That day was special not because I confessed, but because it revealed how love can be the most beautiful joy, and also the most painful silence.
No one expected it, least of all him. The morning had begun like any other. The city buzzed quietly beneath the gray sky, clouds hanging low as if the heavens were holding their breath. In a quiet garden behind the newly built house, the soft sound of wind brushing against the trees gave the scene a strange kind of stillness. That's when it happened. Tu Diem stood there, her figure delicate but determined, holding nothing but a folded note in her hand. Her eyes searched the path ahead, waiting. She had spent sleepless nights, debating this moment. Should she bury her feelings in silence, or finally tell the man who had saved her, protected her, believed in her, that he had also stolen her heart? When Toan arrived, he didn't expect to see her there. He had just returned from the construction site, exhausted, but relieved to know she was safe. Ever since she left without a word, he had been haunted by dreams and memories of her gentle smile. And now, suddenly, she was in front of him, fragile, trembling, and braver than he had ever seen. She didn't need many words. I like you. I think I have for a long time, Tu Diem whispered, her voice barely audible. But I was afraid that I'm not enough, not worthy. I know you never said you felt the same. Maybe you don't. I had to say it, just once. For a moment, the world froze. Toan looked at her, stunned not because he didn't feel the same, but because he had never expected her to speak first. He had always thought she would disappear again if he pushed too hard. His heart thudded painfully in his chest. He wanted to hold her, to tell her she meant everything to him. And yet, he said nothing. He only smiled softly and looked away. You're brave, he replied. Thank you for telling me. No confession, no reassurance, no lie, but no truth either. Tu Diem waited, hoping, even begging silently for something more. But nothing came. She nodded, gave a small smile, and left before her tears could fall. She had said her truth. That was enough. But was it? What no one saw was the war inside Toan. He did feel something deeply, but the scars of his family's disapproval, the fear of bringing her more pain, the pressure from all sides, they chained his heart. He thought staying silent would protect her. He thought it was noble. He was wrong. Truth or a lie, why didn't he confess? Because sometimes the greatest lie is silence. Because love, when wrapped in fear, can look like indifference. Because people who carry too much responsibility often forget they're allowed to choose happiness. And because Toan, like so many others, thought sacrificing love was the way to protect it. The room was filled with silence after her confession. Tu Diem stood still, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest, unsure of what would come next. CEO Toan looked at her, his expression unreadable. Seconds stretched into what felt like minutes. She had taken a leap, not expecting anything in return. But the silence hurt more than she thought it would. Finally, he spoke. "Tu Diem, you shouldn't have said that." The words felt like a cold slap. Her throat tightened and her smile trembled before fading. "I'm sorry," she whispered, turning away. But Toan took a step forward. "Listen," he said softly. "It's not that I don't feel anything for you. I do. More than I should. But I can't let myself fall. Not now. Not when my family is watching, judging, waiting for me to slip. You've already suffered enough because of me. I won't be the reason you get hurt again." Tu Diem turned back to him, tears welling in her eyes. "But what if I'm willing to face all that, as long as you're by my side?" Toan looked torn. His jaw clenched as he struggled between duty and desire. "I want to protect you," he said, voice hoarse. "That's why I can't say yes, not now." She nodded slowly, blinking back her tears. "Then I'll wait, even if it takes forever." He reached out, brushing her hand gently. "Don't wait forever. Live your life. But if fate allows, if someday I'm brave enough, maybe we'll find our way back to each other." The special day ended not with a kiss or embrace, but with a quiet understanding between two wounded hearts, one who finally dared to speak her truth, and one who still couldn't. But deep inside, something had shifted, and neither of them would ever be the same again. Weeks passed. Tu Diem returned to her quiet routine, working at the flower shop a kind elderly couple owned. She tried to fill her days with simple joys, watering roses, arranging lilies, helping customers smile, but no matter how hard she tried, Toan's face haunted her in every quiet moment. His voice echoed in her memory, not with rejection, but with sorrow. She hadn't expected an immediate love story. She had only hoped for honesty, and he gave her that even if it was wrapped in pain. Meanwhile, Toan buried himself in work, projects, deadlines, meetings, anything to keep his mind off the girl who had dared to confess her heart in the rain. His mother still watched his every move. His father, though absent, cast a long shadow of expectations. And deep down, Toan was still the same boy who believed love had to wait until the world was ready. But one evening, as he sat alone in his new home, one he had hoped Tu Diem would someday see, he stared at the untouched dinner in front of him and whispered, "What am I doing?" His heart ached. That night, he drove past her flower shop. The lights were off, the shutters closed, but the little wooden sign on the door still read, "Hope blooms, even in silence." The next day, Tu Diem opened the shop early. To her surprise, there was a bouquet waiting outside the door, a simple one, but carefully arranged. On it was a small note, "If you still believe in us, may I see you again." Her hands trembled. She didn't hesitate. That afternoon, they met in the park where they first bumped into each other months ago when Toan had been lost, both in the forest and in his own life. This time, there were no walls, no excuses, no pretending. "I was afraid," he admitted, eyes full of regret. "But the truth is, I've loved you from the moment you carried me through the rain." Tu Diem laughed through her tears. "That was the day I knew I couldn't walk away." They didn't need grand promises, just that moment, just the truth. And this time, Toan didn't let go. Their reunion in the park felt like the beginning of a long overdue chapter, raw, tender, and honest. Tu Diem and Toan began spending more time together, not in luxurious places or extravagant dinners, but in quiet, meaningful moments. They shared coffee in small roadside cafes, wandered through night markets hand in hand, and cooked simple meals together in the tiny kitchen of Toan's new home. For once, time slowed down, and both of them embraced it. But love rarely unfolds without trials. One afternoon, Toan's mother arrived at his home unannounced. She stepped into the living room just as Tu Diem was coming out of the kitchen with tea. The silence was sharp. Tu Diem bowed politely. Annie, the older woman's gaze swept over her soft, at first, then calculating. So it's true. Toan stepped forward. Mom, we need to talk. But she raised her hand. You've forgotten who you are, who we are, what this means for our family, our company. She has no name, no background, no place in your world. Tu Diem lowered her eyes. It was the judgment she had feared most. I may not have a name, Annie, she said softly, but I have love. I never asked Toan for anything except honesty. Toan turned to his mother, heart thudding. You taught me to fight for what matters. I'm doing just that. But his mother's expression darkened. And your father, you think he'll allow this? The threat hung in the air like storm clouds. That night, Toan held Tu Diem's hands, his voice steady. I don't care about their approval anymore. I care about you. I spent too long afraid of the world's judgment. But what's the point of success if I can't share it with the one person who saved me body and soul? Tu Diem's eyes welled up. Even if it costs everything. He smiled gently. Then we'll rebuild together. Outside, the rain began to fall again. But this time, it didn't feel like sorrow. It felt like freedom. Life lesson from the story: love, when true, is never defined by status, wealth, or background. It is tested in moments of fear, challenged by the expectations of society, and questioned by those closest to us. But in the end, what remains is the courage to choose what is right over what is easy. Tu Diem and Toan's story teaches us that honesty and emotional bravery matter more than appearances. Toan could have continued to hide his feelings to protect his position, but he chose truth. Tu Diem, despite her painful past, dared to confess her love, not expecting anything in return. That kind of love is pure. It gives, it heals, and it inspires. We also learn that family expectations, though important, should never silence the voice of our hearts. Sometimes, we must stand up to those we love in order to live a life of integrity and authenticity. The most powerful message is this: real love is not afraid of storms. It walks through them together, and in doing so, it becomes unbreakable.